my money.
Buddy, I got your money. It's right here. Oh, good. But
Charlie,
you're losing your belt.
Wait, Charlie, I can't hear what you're saying.
What was he like? As a boxer? Charlie was the top contender, #2 in the world. Then the fight game changed.
I'm coming with you.
No, you're not.
I'm either coming with you or you're fishing for your keys in the sewer. Oh my god, that was close. Whoa!
Stubborn kid. This ain't a video game. This is for real. Let's make some money! I just need a little loan.
As much as I like you, dude, you're a bad bet, brother.
Give it up, Charlie. You got nothing left.
What are we looking for?
Anything I could use to put a fighting robot together.
I think there's a whole robot in there.
Never seen anything like it before.
Can we get him a fight?
He's a sparring bot, built to take a lot of hits, but never dishing out any real punishment.
His name is Adam. Get him a fight.
You know you're bringing him home in pieces, right?
Whoa, whoa, whoa! He's smaller and weaker. He's gonna get his ass kicked.
I need you to teach him to box.
Are you kidding me?
You know this fight game inside and out. He needs your moves, your commands.
I can't.
Yes, you can.
I know I've done all kinds of wrong by this kid.
I'd just like to do one thing right. Right uppercut!
Right fight, fellas.
Remember this name, Adam. This bot is one to watch.
I'm trying to see a better side to you here, Charlie.
It's not easy.
We can't win, can we?
We'll see.
Hi, everyone, and welcome once again to Geekfest Rants. My name is Carlos Perron, and joining me here today is Steve Vona. Say hi, Steve.
Hey, Carlos.
Today we are going to be tackling two films that are somewhat similar,
Yet different.
but they're kind of similar, but they're kind of different. These are two films from last year. One of them is Real Steel. The other one is Warrior. Now, before we go deep into these films, give us a little bit, Steve, of where Real Steel came from. What was the inspiration for that movie?
Well, Real Steel is based on a short story by Richard Matheson from the 50s, which I believe was made into a Twilight Zone episode in the early 60s.
Oh, wow.
And I've personally never seen it, but that is where it initially came from, what it's based on. And I don't know much about its pre-production process, just in terms of getting Hugh Jackman and all that other stuff. But yeah, it's a story that's over 50 years old.
Now, was there any connection to because the first time I ever heard about this was reading about how they're turning Rock'em Sock'em Robots into a movie.
Yeah, I think that's still a separate thing.
That's still a separate, complete thing?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, because the reason I think it's a separate thing is because they would have had to license that, and you would have seen some sort of thing in the credits about that. I'm pretty sure that that's a whole nother entity.
Because you're dealing with people that are controlling... Now, again,
robots.
This isn't a brand new concept. They've had other movies like this in the past. I remember some junky movies, Robo-Jocks or something like that,
yeah.
where you are controlling these big robots and making them fight for you.
Right,
obviously,
Robot Jocks, yeah.
Right, that was back, gigantic
early
robots.
90s, yeah.
But this is more human-sized, somewhat human-sized robots.
Like Hulk size.
And you're basically controlling them from a certain distance, and they're doing it for you.
Right.
So I'm surprised because, like I said before, the rumor going around that's what this was. Just like now you have Battleship and you have Chutes and Ladders. I think somebody, and pretty soon I'm sure they're gonna make Etch a Sketch the movie or something. But that was the buzz going around, and it kind of snuck up on people. This movie, because
it did.
I remember seeing some trailer about it, and it's like, what the hell is that? Hugh Jackman?
Yeah, the movie just kind of flew in under the radar. It wasn't released at sort of a blockbuster time. Probably on purpose. I guess because there was really no sense of whether it would be a hit or not. They
do that all the time. They like right now for example, in March or April, they release a lot of these lower.
Yes.
They're still sci-fi type of films,
right.
but they don't want them competing against the big boys.
Exactly. So, I mean, if I'm remembering correctly, I think the movie grossed about like $85 million domestically.
That's not bad
for a movie that no one had a clue about, and it did well. I saw it on Blu-ray, and I really enjoyed it.
I remember when it came out, we almost saw it.
Okay.
Kyle was interested in seeing it, and I was like, really? This thing is really that good? But the movie had traction because it stayed on it stayed on the radar. Mm-hmm. And just like you, I didn't get around because this happens all the time. It's got to be a really big movie to actually get us to go to the movie theater and spend that kind of money.
Sure.
Now, granted, this wasn't one of these 3D spectacles, but we knew that it was right around the corner. Sooner or later, give it 2 or 3 months and you'll see it at home.
Right.
So we waited, and a friend of mine brought it in, and we watched it. And it was like, wow, this isn't bad at all. And the production value was it's heavy special effects.
It was a combination of CGI and practical. They actually built the suits, the robot suits. I think it was Stan Winston's people, his company, who constructed the suits.
It's funny because it a little bit reminded me of iRobot because the expressions you get on some of these robots, especially the lead robot.
Yes.
And obviously you throw Hugh Jackman in the mix, and it gives the film more credibility than your average film. If this would have been Joe Blow,
right?
Who the hell knows what this movie's about? But the fact that Hugh Jackman was attached to it
gave it some geek cred.
It wasn't bad. I mean, the little kid was. It's a typical kid actor. You can't do much with kid actors. They're always the smartest ones in the room.
The only thing that kind of got to me after a while was the kid dancing with the robot. And I was kind of like, all right, fast forward.
There was a little bit of a Terminator 2 vibe of look what I can make him do. He's my friend now. That kind of thing.
And I have to say, and I know you probably punched me in the mouth for this, but what it reminded me of more than anything else was Over the Top, which I don't know if you remember. But I mean, you had that whole vibe of the father who
was a loser,
who hadn't had any The only difference between that movie and Over the Top was he wanted a relationship with the son. This one, Hugh Jackman didn't care.
Give a crap.
He didn't give a crap. But they have this cross-country journey, and they find each other, and they have a good relationship, and everything's wonderful at the end. That kind of crap.
The other thing about the film that was a little odd, that you're trying to put the film in a certain time frame in terms of it's the future. But
we're talking maybe like 10, 12 years in the future.
But it's also like it almost seems like there's certain areas that are. It reminded me a little of the Matrix, even certain areas that are very like the junkyard and all that stuff. It was very worn and dirty and just a mess.
Right.
I also liked all the different robots that they give you.
We'll do a quick summary of Real Steel. The film takes place in the not too distant future. We're talking probably about 10 to 12 years in the future. And it's funny because you talk about boxing and the sport and how brutal it is and MMA and all that stuff. It's gotten to the point where I guess people have died in the ring, too many people, the injuries and what have you, and maybe it's the government has legislated against it. So in order to still have that kind of contact sport, they turn to robots. And apparently the technology exists where you can control robots. Have these little remote controls, and these huge 8-foot tall robots can duke it out in the ring, and they can knock each other's heads off, and limbs can go flying, and nobody's getting killed. So, you still have that blood sport, and it satisfies people. And it seems to have its big, huge stadium tournament fights, and you have your little rinky-dink fight, just like in boxing,
it's almost
just like in MMA.
It's a little bit also like car racing, where everybody customizes their car, and this is mine, and look what adjustments I made to it. And
right.
This is special,
Yeah, they're tricked out. These robots are all tricked out, and they kind of reflect the personality of the person who designs
the owner,
them.
the controller.
Right, and so when we first meet Hugh Jackman, he's obviously a guy who has been kind of to the top, fallen on hard times through his own fault. He's, not a nice guy, and he owes money to the whole world.
And speaking of another lost connection, one of the guys he owes money is one of these ex-losties that used to play. He was like the mercenary that came to the island.
Yes, he's the guy that beats the crap out of him.
He always plays a nasty bad guy. That's him.
Right. So so we meet Hugh Jackman. He's doing like state fairs and all these rodeos, all these rinky-dink jobs just to get by, and his robots are held together with spit and baling wire. So that's where when we first meet him in Real Steel. That's where he's at.
Now, by the time the film ends, you get the sense that he's kind of reconciled with his son at least, and that there might be a future there with these two.
Yes,
and the other, the aunt, was it? They're not going to try to steal this, take him away or something
right.
like that.
Yeah, I mean, she might still have custody of him, but
there's a connection.
There's a good connection.
Now, usually, whenever we talk about any kind of sci-fi film, I like to talk about the marketing of it and the merchandising. Mm-hmm. My God, there's still tons of toys sitting in Toys R Us right now.
Really?
They went full tilt crazy.
Oh, and it was a bust?
And I think as far as the toys go, it's a bust. They're still sitting there. They made, I think, 2 or 3 different sizes of every robot. Mm-hmm. And it's a shame because it's like I keep looking at these toys and I'm like, they're really good looking, cool. But it's just, it
didn't catch on. Which is disappointing only because that aspect of it kind of factors into whether or not there'll be a sequel, because I think they're on the fence about it. It was a hit, kind of, sorta. I don't know about the whole international gross.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
If the toys had made buckets of money, you would have probably seen a sequel greenlit like that.
And they did a typical toy thing where you have every major. I'm talking only robots. I don't think they bothered with the humans, but every robot is there. They sell some of them in pairs. Like, you can only get this robot if you buy them attached to this guy.
Yeah.
So they want you really to spend a lot of money on this. But
and now they're in the bargain bins. Huh?
Yeah, it's a shame that at least the merchandising didn't do that well. And hopefully it won't prevent the film, like you said, from doing a sequel.
Yeah.
I don't remember a lot of no names in the film. I mean, the other big name I guess you could say is attached to this film is the girl who plays his girlfriend,
Evangeline Lilly,
who is from obviously Lost. So I guess she's trying to find some post-Lost to work.
She's also going to be in The Hobbit.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
So it's always good to see her.
Right, and I believe they were also saying, you were talking about a possible sequel. As far as they can tell right now, the 3 lead characters, her, the kid, and Jackman, would most likely be attached to this sequel if it ever gets made. And so I guess they would bring in maybe new bad guys at that point, or some other bizarre twist to this film. So, I mean, overall, it's one of these films that when I first heard about it and first thought I should go see it, I guess I should have seen it in the theater.
Yeah, it would have been a good experience.
It's definitely the thing that you would not have regretted seeing it.
Yes.
So now this brings us to our second film that we wanted to talk about briefly, which is Warrior. Now, I remember hearing about this film as it was being promoted, and I remember a lot of people saying it's, the closest thing to Rocky that we've gotten in a long time. Yeah. And, to me, you throw in any type of fighting, boxing, MMA, I'm like, no, thank you.
It's not for you.
Thanks for trying.
Yeah.
And the only thing that was interesting me about this film, just a tiny, tiny little bit.
I know what you're going to say. Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy. And
Man crush
on Tom Hardy. And along the way, I started to make a connection that the other star of the film, Joe Edgerton, who I started to recognize from, wait a minute, this is the guy who was in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith playing Uncle Owen. A very early role for him.
Yeah, well, he's from Australia.
But he was. But in the film, it's in the Star Wars films, it's a very small role.
Yes,
he gets very brief airtime and actual lines. But then he started popping up here and there, and then we saw him in The Thing. And it's like, well, wait a minute, this guy's got something going on here. So for some bizarre reason, after the movie came out, and people were gushing over it. And at the same time, when it first came out, people were even talking Oscar here, Oscar there. I waited to the DVD. How about you?
I did the same. I have to say, in general, I haven't, because there's been so much crap coming out in the last couple of years, I haven't been as attentive to new releases unless they're blockbusters, things that interest me, like the superhero movies or whatever. And this movie kind of flew under my radar. And like you, I was intrigued when I heard Tom Hardy. I was intrigued when I heard Joel Edgerton. And then I saw a trailer, and it just full disclosure here, people who may or may not know, I'm a huge Rocky fan, and I've always loved, unlike you, I do like boxing films, and I do like these films where they sort of tie in the element of boxing with some sort of struggle, some sort of goal that needs to be achieved, some kind of...
Well, there's a hook.
There's a hook.
There's a hook to this movie.
Yeah, and there's something compelling about the underdog who is facing incredible odds, and in this film, you have two.
Right, but the thing that I think was a bit of a mistake when it came to the trailer is the fact that they reveal in the trailer the hook, which is that they're brothers.
Yes.
And at some point in this film,
they're going to fight.
Most likely in the climax of the film,
yes,
they're going to have to fight each other.
Right.
So
that was disappointing.
It was disappointing in terms of giving away something, but at the same time, that's one of the things that sold the film.
Yeah.
The trailer was putting its money on the fact that these two brothers sooner or later are going to have to beat the crap out of each other.
And it's funny because even though I knew that was going to happen, I didn't think, as the film was unreeling, I didn't think that would be the climax. I thought one of them was going to fight the big Russian.
There were so many emotional points in the film to get to that point that you almost forget that. You almost forget the fact that, oh crap, they still have to fight each other at some point.
Yes.
Because, oh my God.
Well, there's a scene, Tom Hardy and Joel Edgerton don't have a lot of scenes together in the film, but there's a scene, and we can just quickly synopsize the movie. There are these two brothers. One is a former MMA fighter who has since given it all up to become a family man. He's a teacher. He's got kids, but he's fallen on hard times.
And on the side, he's doing some little fights here or there and getting in trouble with his wife.
Yeah, getting in trouble with his wife because he needs money.
His wife, by the way, played by the girl from Once Upon a Time.
Yes, the sheriff.
Yeah,
Jennifer Morrison.
Ah.
And Tom Hardy's character, he's got his issues. He fought in Iraq.
He's back in town.
He's back in town.
Mysteriously,
under
we don't
a
know.
cloud.
Right.
There's a problem there. And he wants to fight. And he looks up his father, played by Nick Nolte, who he's very estranged from. They're both estranged from.
Yeah.
And he hates the man. But he knows that he needs him to help him get in shape to get back in the ring.
And it's not like he approaches his father from a loving angle. It's almost a, you owe me, you bastard, give it to me now, what you owe me, and what you owe me is you train me now.
Right.
And
there's not going to be any lovey-dovey father-son.
And when you see that, it just feels horrible. It's like, oh my God, it's you don't like this guy too much because he's being so hard on his father. But then you start learning about what a hard ass his father was.
But the father has also come to a point in his life where he wants forgiveness. He's changed his life. He's gone to AA, but he was a brutal son of a bitch.
Abusive father.
And Tom, this is what happened. The family split. Tom Hardy went with his mother to escape the father.
And the mother dies.
Sick. And the brother, Joel Edgerton, stays because he's got a girlfriend who he eventually marries.
Mm-hmm.
So, but he still becomes estranged from Nick Nolte. So no one's talking to Nick Nolte at this point. So there are all these very emotionally draining things going on in the film. That these relationships are all fractured.
Then you have the baggage that Tom Hardy's bringing from the war that you start to learn little by little,
which unveils itself, little by little. Yeah, so it really is an emotional roller coaster, the film. And by the time they get to the tournament,
right? Because it's almost like two trains on separate rails. And they're going full tilt.
Yes.
And each story, it's like, you could say, well, the family story is weaker than the other guy. No, they're both equally strong stories compelling. That you're cheering for both of them. And it's a conflicting way of feeling about characters.
Right. And then the thought that, you come to, at least I came to love both these characters. And then the notion that they were going to have to duke it out and you wanted them both to win. So, again, because I am such a fan of the Rocky genre, if you will, or the boxing genre, I'm also not a huge fan of MMA fighting, but that seems to be where the sport is going. Boxing has kind of fallen away in popularity, and MMA has become this big, huge thing now. And I guess it made sense for the filmmakers to stage it using MMA because that's also a hook. It's a very popular sport now. And also, the boxing thing has been done. So, it feels fresh, even though there are familiar themes. And again, with Rocky, you had one character. Here you had two characters.
Right. Well, the energy that you get from the fights and the crowd reaction and the setting. It's typical boxing reactions, because that's kind of like that.
Yeah, sure.
Now, the thing that I found also interesting was that as you're watching these two characters moving forward with their energy, you start to see Tom Hardy's character falling off the rails, because he's like a bull in a china shop in terms of he gets to the point where he doesn't even care. He knocks the guy out. He doesn't even wait. He leaves. He's out of there. He doesn't care. He just wants to keep fighting. And you get to the point where you realize this guy is self-destructive.
Yes.
His goal is not winning. His goal is, to me, it felt like he wanted to die. He wanted to completely destroy himself on the ring. Yeah. It was his way of redeeming himself, maybe?
Well, the only thing, I would only disagree slightly, because he wanted to at least win the championship to give the money to the wife of his soldier who had died. So he wanted to at least get that far, and I guess if he had died afterwards, he wouldn't have cared. But you slowly, towards the very end, he was opening up to his father. There was a very, very emotional scene with the father.
Where he falls off the wagon. His father falls off the wagon, and he kind of brings him back
cradles
into the room.
And he, and there's a sense that maybe there's some hope with that relationship. And then when he fights his brother, again, up until the very end, there's this anger and hatred and all this pent-up stuff. But, again, if people haven't seen the film, I don't want to completely ruin it. But there's a sense of, I don't know, forgiveness, closure. I don't know what you want to call it.
It almost, I don't know. And again, it's a very weird emotional sequences at the end where it's, to me, it felt like he was there to win, but he didn't care. At a certain point, he didn't care anymore. His body is a mess,
but he still kept fighting.
And he kept fighting, but it was like he wasn't going to win this fight,
right?
Because your body is gone already,
betraying you,
and everybody's cheering his brother to knock him out and to finish him. And it didn't go exactly in that manner.
Well, he taps out.
Right. It was also very difficult to me when I was watching it, because I don't know the sport that much. There were times where fighters are holding each other and they're pulling and squeezing and whatever the hell it is that they do with these things, where the tap out scene, where I couldn't tell who was winning. I can't tell if it's the guy who's pulling or if it's the guy who's under. Who is winning this fight? And then all of a sudden, everybody cheers because everything stops, and I'm like, okay, who just won? I don't know what just happened.
Right.
It was a little difficult at times. But like I said, by the time you get to the end, I got that sense that Hardy's character just was done. He was drained of everything.
But I think he was drained of his hatred, too. I think that you see at the end... All right, I'm just going to go there.
No, that's fine.
At the end, they walk off together, arm in arm. The Joel Edgerton is cradling his brother. They're walking off. Now, that's where the movie ends. You're not ever going to see... I'm sure there's never going to be a sequel. It's left to your own imagination how these relationships continue, if they continue. I would like to believe that at the end of the film, that was the start of reconciliation.
Right.
I'm not saying they were going to play happy family.
Forget the fact that the army's there.
Oh, the Marines are going to arrest him
because he went AWOL.
Right. But there were extenuating circumstances. I think he was.
And how often would they really let him continue fighting?
Yeah,
they would have grabbed him in the second they wanted and pulled him out. But it makes good drama.
Yeah,
obviously.
It makes great drama. But, so I would like to think that, yes, at the end there was a sort of a hopefulness for the brothers.
And Nick Nolte's character, he's driving back.
He came back.
He drove back, I guess, from because didn't he after he
has his episode,
right?
Well, he goes to the hotel and watches the fight. So, and he's kind of off to the side.
Right. He doesn't want to stick his nose in there too much.
But again, I think that there was just the glimmer of hope that they were all going to be forgiving each other and redeemed and everything.
Because even between the brothers, they resented each other.
Yeah,
in different, especially Hardy
against
Edgerton,
Egerton.
because he made a life for himself and didn't, I guess, come to the aid of the brother and the mother and stay with the father.
Right.
So.
Yeah, everybody had a thing against everybody else in this film. It was like such dysfunctionality.
Yeah, nobody really got along with anybody.
It was about as dysfunctional as you could possibly be.
So overall, again, similar to how we talked about Real Steel before, a movie that completely surprised me even more than Real Steel, how much I liked it. And granted, yes, I've been following Tom Hardy's career for a while now, and I am impressed at what this guy does to prepare for a role and to get into a role. It's really amazing. I mean, if you look at him, especially in these boxing films, I remember I saw him I first saw him, if you want to go back, in Star Trek Nemesis. Couldn't tell you who, at the time, didn't impress me at all.
Right.
Okay, interesting.
He was
He's
okay.
some bald guy.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be the clone. Okay, whatever. Next.
Right.
I saw him in Bronson.
Right.
And that's a movie that's like, holy crap, who is this nut
Yes,
job?
yes.
And he did the same thing in this film in terms of
Bulking
He
up.
bulked up, and it's ridiculous. He's got these things on his neck.
Well,
that
he kind of.
It's almost like a second set of shoulders, and it's like, what the hell is he?
Well, this is what he's
like
probably
a
going to look.
caveman.
He's going to look like as Bane in
Yeah.
Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah. And he's the type of actor, I think, like a De Niro type, where he goes from extremes back and forth. He bulks up, and then he...
Or Christian Bale.
Yeah. They go completely nuts.
Yeah.
And
he was also in Inception.
That's right.
Which was a great film, and he looked normal in that.
A very small, a smaller role. He's perfectly, normal looking. Nothing weird about him.
Right.
And he's got a ton of movies coming up. Apparently, we talked about this before. He's going to be the next Mad Max.
Oh yeah, he definitely is.
Cool. Well, I guess this is how these two films kind of snuck up on us, and they're very similar and very alike in a different manner. And at this rate, I'm pretty sure, like you said, we're not going to see another Warrior film, but maybe we might see another Real Steel. And these are one of these, I don't know if you can call them sleeper films.
I would.
Warrior, at least, was nominated, Nick Nolte, for an Academy Award.
Yes.
Real Steel was nominated for visual effects. So they're not that much, in terms of B-movies or movies that are like out there in the wilderness. These are pretty successful films, and they're very good films. So hopefully, again, if you guys have a chance, you haven't seen it, pick them up, take a look at them, especially on Blu-ray. They look fantastic. Gorgeous. So I would like to quickly say thank you to Steve for joining us today.
My pleasure.
And we will see you guys here next time on Geekfest Rants. Bye-bye.
Tommy, what are you doing here?
I was just passing through, and I figured why not have a belt with the old man?
Today. Brendan, it's me, Pop. Tommy's back.
Did he say if he wants to see me?
You were far away.
That's Emily and Rosie. They nieces, Tommy.
So why am I looking at pictures of people I don't know?
So that's my family. I'm your brother, man. And
The bank has got to go by the new appraisal figures. You're upside down on your mortgage.
they're gonna take the house.
We're not going backwards.
Didn't ask you why.
How much do you need?
I didn't come in for long, Frank. I was hoping that you would train me. What could I say?
I'm proud of you, Tommy. What you did for that kid in the tank.
What was I supposed to do? Let him drown?
I was far away.
I haven't forgotten what I promised you.
What I promised, man. Take care of you guys.
You just walked away.
There's this big tournament, and I'm gonna need a trainer. That much you were good at.
How close am I?
Can't watch you fight again.
I'd really love it if you'd be with me on this.
You got him!
You can do this. What do you say? I can do this.
War hero Tommy Reardon, who has become an overnight sensation, and Brendan Conlon, the physics teacher, they pulled off a miracle.
I know you can't hate me like this.
I don't hate you.
You're just someone that might get in my way, that's all.
The war! This is impossible! The two men fighting for the championship tonight are brothers!
Stop.